Matatu sa matou pamtalanga le siwa o mauru o le mauru e le ta se pake o le mea moni na e ufu le pese malangi le pese e ta te pala o le te Samoa lo to New Bele Emita mita wagaga ya tewe o what you
Talofa lava malo lovely soifua. Kia ora, Nisan Bulamanaka. Yeah, my name is Esmeralda Lotan. I was born and raised in New Zealand, Auckland, New Zealand. I studied I was in primary in Panemuremo Primary, a small place up north of Auckland. I went to Carmel College and finished my college years there. And then I went to Auckland University and I did my certificate and my bachelor's in health sciences. And I finished off with my postgraduate diploma and my master's in public health, and I specialize in Pacific health. After uni, I moved to Samoa. And so I've only just realized the other day that I've actually spent a majority of my professional working life in Samoa. And so the beginning of this year, I landed in, Australia. And I've been here since March, thanks to COVID. And yeah, the work experience has been great here as well. I started my own small business in 2018 in Samoa with compression wear, selling compression gear and looking at a different angle of looking at mental health. So using sport and exercise to have conversations and dialogue around mental health. And then right smack bang in the middle of COVID, I decided to launch another small business. Yeah, as crazy as it sounds. So 8 goals, and we launched in July of this year, 2020, and I partnered up with my sister who's a life coach. And so we work on professional development and personal development. So I kind of grew up in business. I've been working with my family businesses for about 18, almost 20 years. And so that's where my background kind of comes in. Yeah, nice to meet you all. Yeah, sure. You can only take people as far as you've been, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the whole passion started with my own struggles and being able to speak. I'm the youngest of 6 children, so I've always had people there for me to speak on my behalf or to advocate for me. And it came to a point in time in my life where I had to speak for myself, and I was like, whoa, what is this? So I was not in a place where I was empowered or I felt comfortable enough to speak my truth. And that was a long journey in itself. It's still a journey. It's still, some days are easier than others, but there's been many learning experiences along the way. My whole drive around the whole mental health thing is that I know what it feels like to have to go through depression and high-end anxiety, and it's not fun. But if I can help another young girl or anybody, wherever they are in the world, if I can help that one person reach out to someone or have a conversation, then maybe their life will be different. And so it's just really giving up, having those options there available for people who don't know otherwise. Yeah, I think it's really started to come out quite a lot, especially I guess due to this COVID pandemic and this social disruption we've had, right, of social isolation or social distancing as such. People have become more aware of mental health. I think for example, in Samoa, our Mental Health Act was only brought in to Samoa in 2007, I believe it was implemented. Mental health policy was only adapted in Samoa in 2006, and our mental health ordinance came around in 1961, which was around about the year we became independent in 62. In comparison to New Zealand, where the mental health ordinance was first introduced in the 1800s. So there's a vast difference in our understanding of mental health in the Pacific versus Australia and New Zealand. They're well more advanced than we are. And so our understanding of mental health in the Pacific is that it's spiritual, or it's passed down, or it's through families. We don't really understand it yet at that complex psychological and physiological level as they do in other well-developed countries. And it's just, there's different culture systems around that and different beliefs. I mean, there's no understanding that's better than the other. It's just an understanding that differs due to culture and the environments that we were brought up in. Mental health. Mental health is a branch of health. So health is very multifaceted. There's physical health, there's spiritual health, mental and emotional health. So mental health is really to do with the mind and your mindset, and how you think about things, how you think about your everyday activities, and often your mind and your body work in alignment. So if your mind is not in tune, or if you're not thinking about positive things all the time, or the affirmations, it could lead into showing signs of physical ailments. So whether that is, it could also be poor mental health could also show in risky behaviors. So, uptake of alcohol, smoking, drug abuse, violence is another one. So, you look at our rates as Pacific that are high in all of those things, but we don't look at the root causes. Depression is actually quite high, higher than I actually anticipated. I was told by my doctors 1 in 5 people suffer from it. And I think on an average Samoan family, on average Islander family would be 5+, so that's 1 per family. If you have a family of 10 or 8 siblings, it's 2 in your family who could possibly suffer from depression. It varies. It's so variable, and because I think each of us have independent roles to play, whether you're the head of the family, the eldest, or whether you're the youngest, you have different roles to play, right? And then also a middle child. And then that's compounded by other factors like family obligations, church, and then you got schoolwork on top of that. And then on top of that, some people have to work an extra job to help out mum and dad. So the stress just continues to pile up. And if people don't see the physical signs of your body giving in, then you don't really realize that it's sometimes your mental health that you got to fix as well. Some people think, I'm just tired, I just need to sleep. But also that's your body telling you that you might be overworking yourself, or you might be overthinking and overdoing other things that are that could take a back seat rather than your self-care. So I guess if we talk about mental health depletion or change in behaviors, any extreme changes, so it could be relying on alcohol, or constantly drinking, or constantly risky behaviors. So finding an outlet, because those things are fast, they're hard and fast. If you drink, you smoke, it happens right there and then, so you get that hit. Whereas the coaching and the mentoring and the counseling, it takes a long time to process, and and you have to go through different pathways. So you have to go through your GP, which is not sometimes affordable or an easy way. So I think alcohol is an easy outlet sometimes. Abusive behavior, just very angry. If you know your family quite well and that's not like them, instead of retaliating against them. And this is something that I was thankful for my dad for when I was having an out-of-body experience, I'd say. He never judged me on that, or he never came to he never mirrored my actions. He understood that it wasn't me, and sat me down and talked to me in a way that he has known me for longer than I've known myself, pretty much. So he could recognize the changes. Eating behaviors for me changed. Some people like to indulge in food and find comfort in food. For me, I couldn't stand the sight or the smell of food. So I would go a few days without eating. I'd eat sometimes because I knew I had to, but even that made me sick. So I think if you notice signs of, people not eating in front of, in big groups and gatherings, where they usually would, that might be a sign. Sleeping habits, tough one, man, because it can go both ways as well, right? You either stay up really late or you can't sleep at all, or you're sleeping the whole time. And that's with anxiety as well. And for me, I didn't even notice, I never knew, but my sisters were telling me that I grind my teeth really bad at night. And so they could hear it from the next room. So I've had to adapt with using a mouth guard, and that's with the stress and anxiety. That's another sign, and is just teeth grinding at night. So something, again, I wasn't aware of, and no one told me about these signs, but it wasn't until I researched a little bit more into what I have. And I guess it's something that I've never quite I'm open about speaking about it, but it's not something that I broadcast, because I'm also aware of the social stigma around these types of things like depression and anxiety, and I don't want to kind of put it on a billboard to say, to make it look pretty and make it look, I've got this and that. I think it's something that we got to be very careful about how we talk about it to people, and ensure that triggers are not let off for other young girls who might be experiencing the same thing. An open book to talk about it, but I think, it's such it's a topic that almost everybody finds themselves in these days, right? Like you said, it's being talked about almost everywhere. But I think the terminology that we must use as well is very important, because it could further stigmatize, or it could destigmatize, which is exactly what we want to do with mental health. That was an easy choice. My granddad was sick at the time, and he always lived down the road from us in Mangere. And we lived on the shore. We lived in Parimurimo, like I said before. And then we moved to West Auckland when I was about 14, 15. So Nan and Pa had always been, an hour drive, half an hour, depending on who's driving. And what do you call it? So when they moved to Samoa, I really missed him. Just when I'd have a hard day, that would be my outlet. I'd go and take him out for a drive, or would go for a beer, or would go for ice cream, whatever he felt like for the day, or would just play our songs on the radio and just sing to each other in the car, have our karaoke moments. So I really missed him, and so I decided, I left my job within a week, and I just picked my suitcase and I went to Samoa, and that was that. The first job I found over there was in film and TV, and so I've been working in film and TV since then, but I got to spend a good solid year with Pa before he was called back to his Lord, and that was honestly the best choice I've made. It's been the hardest few years after he left, but I know now that all those little moments of spending time in the car with him, whether it was driving here or there are so many lessons I learned from him in those short few hours we spent together. And I think that has really been the foundation of why a lot of the things that I have seemed to put my name to or touch have become successful, not to my own, I guess, because I've put work on it, but because I know that his name is in it, because I've everything that I base everything around has been in dedication to him, because without that hardship, none of these businesses would be alive, actually. And I wouldn't have gone through this mental health journey had it not been for him. I think he's a massive a massive part of this business, not here physically, but I know he oversees a lot of it. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I think the business has been nominated for about 5 awards in the past 3 months or 2 months, I think.
And it just started in 2018, is that right?
Yeah, we're still a baby,
Wow.
I think.
Wow.
Yeah, we're still under 5 years old. Only,
Yeah.
I think 20, yeah, just about 3 years old. In December, 3 years old. So yeah, we've been thankfully nominated for a lot of different things. Inspiring stories. We were nominated for 2 categories. What was it? Global impact and entrepreneurship, social enterprise. We were nominated for Forbes 30 under 30 from a mentor that I had in Bangkok. We were in the Entrepreneurship World Cup.
Yes.
And Seed Stars. So we made it through to the local Seed Stars final in Apia, Samoa. And so we're waiting on those results. We get them tomorrow on a live session as well. So yeah, it's been quite a busy year when everything else feels like it should be on pause and everything's slowed down. I think 8 Sports has really taken off in many different ways in 8 goals. So yeah, I think those are some of the things that I'm involved in. I'm also mentoring some young Pasifika people here in Logan through Mana Pasifika, which is an organisation based in Australia.
Yes.
I'm working with the Waitemata DHB and with the Pasifika team in New Zealand, and we're working on some projects to bring out as well in the future. And I've just started today to plan my next Pacific Health Expo, which I had my first one at the beginning of the year. And so yeah, I'm looking at pushing that around Easter next year, and I've got some people on board from Solomon Islands, from Samoa, Australia, New Zealand, and I really want to get into Tonga. So if anyone's listening to this and wants to jump on board, let me know. As young people growing up, we get told to study hard, do well in school, work hard, but no one actually tells us a lot about scholarships or how we can apply for them or how we can go and get them ourselves. So I think one of the first scholarships I got was in uni, HRC, by the HRC Council. I don't know who runs that now, but that was Health Research Committee, I think, or Council. And so that was one of my very first years in university. And if it wasn't for my friends, I wouldn't have known about really going for scholarships. So yeah, I think with that one, it really helped out my family at the time, with mum and dad still working. They're now retired. And it obviously with, the house and things and being, having 6 kids, there's a lot of other things and bills and things that we have to pay. So a scholarship, how big or how little it is, a scholarship's a scholarship. And I think if you have the opportunity to go out and apply for them, apply, because it doesn't also help you. It's a massive help to your family and the people around you, and also for your little brothers and sisters or nieces and nephews, in my case, growing up, to look up to you and know that you have achieved that and that they can do the same. With China, I had a pitching session in, I pitched my business idea. So this was before 8 Sports had even launched. I pitched it to the Youth CoLab in Samoa, which was a competition for young entrepreneurs to go into. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was just like, okay, I was sitting with this idea about the sports gear for about a year. And I had done my own market research, and I had shipped in my own gear from China, from Australia, from New Zealand, and did the quality testing all myself, and looked at what other compressions existed in the market at the time, which was very close to almost nothing. And so I was quite confident in the material that I had chosen, the wash and wear, all of those little things. And so yeah, I had a prototype there to show when I pitched the idea in July of 2018. And I finished in the top 5, which gave me the opportunity to go to China. And so in China, it was the Asian Pacific Youth Collab, which is youth from all around the Asian Pacific regions with business ideas. So I was competing against people from China, Philippines, Singapore, you name it. And
Asia.
yeah, exactly. We were the only youth from Pacific, even though they had the banner as Asia Pacific. So that was a real eye-opener for me, because I was thinking, well, where's our Fiji? Where's our Tonga? Where's our Niue? Where are the people who represent the other half of that banner? So I was named as a finalist in the area that I was pitching. There were 2 streams. So myself and my colleague were the only ones from the Pacific who pitched. And the award that I won was the most innovative from Asia Pacific. That was the title of the award, I think it was. This was before finals actually. We got a chance to go in and sit at a roundtable discussion with the UNDP leaders. And so I said thank you for the opportunity, obviously. And then just voiced the concerns about the gap that they needed to bridge. So I said, okay, we compete at local level with people in Samoa, and then you bring us out of the local level and you put us right into, global regional, global level really, or we really bridge that gap between the Pacific Islands themselves. So what I asked for at that meeting was more Pacific representation, and that was pretty much granted almost straight away. It was pretty amazing to see, the power that those people had in the room. And the guy, Mr. Hao Liang, I think, who was the leader at the time, and he said, okay, well, write that down and we can send one of the representatives somewhere. So he didn't specify at the time, but I got a call not long after that, and they said, hey, do you want to come to the Solomon Islands and talk about youth entrepreneurship? And so that happened the following month. So I got back home to Samoa, unpacked and repacked, and I went off to the Solomon Islands. And although we're in the Pacific, right, we're swimming in the same ocean, vastly different. So I was just amazed at the culture difference, and thinking that we lived in poverty in Samoa, but that there are other areas that are a lot more povert than I thought possible. So it really humbled me as well to see that we're so, we're living in luxury in some places in Samoa where, other people have the bare minimum. And for example, the person who won the Solomon Islands Youth Collab, he invented a toilet for his, a bathroom for his island. So what happens is they use the bathroom in this ocean that's around them, but they also they swim and they fish in the same water. And so for him, it's obviously a health and safety thing. But also he was saying the reason why he wanted to invent this seat was because some of the people on their island were disabled or, not well abled, and they couldn't bend their knees quite well. So for them to sit rather than to, squat or whatever it is, however, is going to be a massive help for them health-wise. So it was those little things that really woke me up to think, oh my gosh, we have to do more in this space. We're the youth, we are the ones that are living in the communities, and we are the ones that are innovative enough to see what needs to be done and can see what works. So I think it was a real privilege on that side to be able to let in to see how other cultures live. But also the following year after me, one of my colleagues, Olisana Marina from Samoa, was able to go to the next youth collab, which was in Vietnam. And and there was a lot more Pacific representation at that one, I'd be happy to say. Fiji, Solomon Islands and Samoa were represented, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Probably just more representation. So, you know, Tonga, that wasn't there, or other islands in Fiji, or, you know, Samoa. There's always room for development, but the fact that they were so willing to listen to our voice, so important. I'm so competitive that I think I used my competitive nature in a healthy way, and I just made it happen. So it was scary getting a business license. It was scary going through all of those things. I think I was lucky enough to have my sisters and my brothers in business already, that I could just say, hey, how do I apply for a business license? What do I need to do to register? And it was simply just those key things that I just made it happen. I didn't, you know, there were plenty of excuses that I could have given, but I didn't want to, I was competing against myself, I think. I know that I am my own worst critic a lot of the time. And even when things do go well, I always see the bad in things, because I'm like, no, this can be better. No, this can be better. And I think that's a healthy competition to have with yourself, because you know, I don't believe in perfectionism, but I believe in excellence. And I think if we do aim for, you know, trying to make things perfect, then we'll somewhere along the line reach our work of excellence. So definitely mum and dad. I would say dad for, you know, the most part. My parents are, again, they're my biggest supporters, but my most honest critics as well. They'll tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. And that has really built me for, you know, for many, many years. And I think with their support, none of this, you know, would have eventuated if I didn't have their support. And so there were many times that I was backed up against the wall. And I think when I started 8 Sports, I had literally nothing else to lose. I had lost my grandfather. I had lost people that I actually really care about. I had lost some really great friendships and some great relationships. I lost a great job at the time. I was working in American Samoa with maternal and infant health, and you know, something just didn't go right there. So I think from my perception, God was actually taking away these things because my focus was on something else. My focus was, you know, I had such a good life growing up. I had anything and everything I wanted, you know, was pretty much handed to me. And my dad says this all the time, you know, that we were, you know, spoiled, or, you know, we got everything that we wanted back in his day. You know, you didn't get that. So I got to a point in my life where I had lost focus on what really mattered. And so in order to refocus my life, God had to take away the things that he thought that I needed, or that I thought that I needed. And so coming out of that, I realized the things that I had to concentrate on were, you know, the people who ground me. And sometimes it is difficult to work and live with, you know, growing in different personalities. But where there's a will, there's a way. And if your heart is in the right place, your mind will follow. But I think it's, just I've been led by faith, and I've been led by the right people and the right mentors. I think being genuine, you know, is really key, really important. There's a difference that I can tell when someone comes to me and wants to hear my story and they're genuine. And there's a difference when someone comes to me and they just want to know because they want to know. And so
you deserve
and so I can, you know, some people, especially when they're guarded, they can fish that out from someone, and they can almost, you know, smell it or read it off someone from the initial get-go. So with people who are genuine, you can feel that as well. Their body language and the tone and their eye contact, as well. And sometimes you misread as well. You misread how you're being treated. So I think I'm very careful with who I share personal parts of my life with, because my life is not 8 sports. My life is not 8 goals. That's my business, and if it crosses over, it could be detrimental to the business. But I have to also remember that the business is the branding as well, and to ensure that what we stand for is also evident as well to our customers. And I have had a lot of people contact me after they see the video that UNDP has put up, or some articles or interviews that I've been on online. I have a lot of people who sometimes I know, sometimes I don't know, reach out. I had a father reach out to me the other day online and just say, I've seen your story, and I can really relate with my son that's going through something. And he just asked about medication. And I said, listen, it's, and I told him my honest opinion. I said, there are natural ways and, natural benefits, breathing exercises, or, positivity and self-talk and things like that. They do take time to learn and for your body to understand, but they also do work. Medication also works. It's there if you need it, but I don't, my want for people is not to become reliant on it.
That's right.
It's there to help, and it does help, I'd say that, but there are also other implications and other side effects of depressive medication and anti-anxiety medication. And I think, depression and anxiety, we're getting younger and younger with our kids who are now facing these things. It doesn't get easier with social media around. So I think it's just us as parents and aunties and uncles being vigilant of how much screen time our kids are getting, but also being vigilant about how much time they're spending outside, playing, having physical activity, and really just being kids. I went out for a coffee with one of the young girls that I mentor, with her mum and her. The other day we went to McDonald's, and the night before I just wrote up what stress is, what it looks like, how stress festers in my body, or how I hold it in my body, and then how I can overcome stress. And so that I printed that sheet out. It was actually 4 pages long, but I could see a lot of similarities in me and her. And so I went and I sat down with her mum, and I said, listen, these are some of the things that I went through. These are some of the things that I think you could try and adapt. And I made it specific to her. So I think really relating to that one-on-one, her mum said it was a massive help. She's been having a lot of trouble at school, and I said, it's going to get harder if we don't nip it in the butt now at a young age. She's year 9, I think. We've got exams that come up at the end of our college life, and I was really concerned about that, and the social anxiety thing I get as well. So being around other people that she's not familiar with. So that's something that I wanted her to just kind of understand. And I took my friend here with me. This is Jerry. And he's one of my favorite things that I brought, that and this globe, so I can see who I'm calling and where they live and stuff like that. But so Jerry, I was kind of going over what happens in your mind and how that changes the way that your body works. So we talked about the heart rate and the breathing, and she hyperventilates a lot, so going around why the body goes through that, and goosebumps, and also the bowel changes, your bowel movements and things like that. So and being a girl, we talked about how that also changes our menstrual system as well, stress. So that was a lot of the advice that I kind of gave. And I look at health I love the brain. So I love reading about the brain and how it makes the body work. So it's looking at health from the physiological and the the physiological and the psychological perspective, and the effect that really the body and the mind work together. So in order to understand one, you got to understand how the other works. And if we understand what stress does to our body, then we can look at ways to prevent stress. Yeah, and I think hopefully that would minimize our rates of depression and anxiety and a whole lot of other mental health ailments. There are a lot of initiatives out there currently. I have different views, and I don't want to offend anyone here, but I see that there could be so much more done. When there's so much funding that's getting pushed to this mental health area, you know.
Yeah.
But I also see internally how things are sometimes not fair, and how things are sometimes not used to the advantage or to benefit the minority or the majority of people. The Minister of Health has got X amount towards mental health, or X amount towards improving hospitals and improving healthcare and services and facilities and all of that. Honestly, I get so excited about all the news, and then I get to see it for myself, and it's so unfair, because I see people struggle on a grassroots level at that from the bottom up approach, get to see and work in communities and see how much benefit that a couple of those dollars could do if we really put it towards good use with either preventative healthcare and looking at coping mechanisms and coping strategies, rather than pouring it into other things. But one day if I'm funded, maybe I'll get to roll the dice. But I think everyone is actually, at the end of the day, everyone's trying to do their best in the best way that they can, and they don't want to know what they don't know, and they can only do their best with the resources that they have at hand. It would be for us to live, us as in Pasifika people, to live more quality lives, happier and healthier lives. As we age, we understand that our bodies will get frail, our bones will get frail. We can't stop disease, but we can definitely hinder it, starting at a younger age, and we can keep our parents around for longer as well. Prevention for me would be 0 suicides. It would be less heart disease, lower rates of cancer, and it would be raising awareness of health services that exist, so that people know that they can go and get checkups rather than waiting until they're really, really sick, because if they don't invest in their health at an early age, they're going to be investing in it in a much different way, paying for medication, paying for hospital bills, and would rather do that at the primordial preventative stage rather than at the end. Everything in moderation. I mean, I wouldn't tell people to stop drinking, or stop eating red meat, but benefits of stop eating red meat is climate change, of course. But I would say, if it's something you enjoy, then indulge a little, but don't go overboard. If you love your family, you'd have things in moderation. You wouldn't go completely overboard with things. I love my island food, don't get me wrong. I've got a sweet tooth, but I also, quality of life for me is being happy. Full stop. I think, if you're happy, then if you're happier, if you're happy, then, a lot of things are gonna just be easy for you in life. Even when you do come through adversity, if you're a happier person, you're going to get over that adversity a lot faster and a lot easier. It could, changing our diets. Of course, our diet is linked to our health. We know that. Everyone knows that. And, eating more vegetables, and it's so much easier said than done, right?
It is.
So I think, if we have that family support around us, and I know, my family's adopted it. My dad, who thought, he'd have diabetes forever, is, he's climbed that mountain and is now on a journey of healthier eating, and has, his insulin shots have almost decreased to pretty much zero now.
Wow.
Something he thought he could never get rid of. And so we've all made that journey, and we've all made that decision as a family, because we want our dad around us a lot longer than his dad was around. Of course. So it's about chiming in with everyone as well, and knowing what everyone else is going through. You don't know what your sister's going through in the room next door to you, or your brother. That's a hurtful thing when you're living under the same roof, and you can't talk to the people around you, and so their outlet, if they can't talk to the family, is going to be the unhealthy foods, because it makes them feel better, indulging in stuff. So I think it's a whole family communal support that if we can offer. I was seeing too many young lives be lost. Too many people in my generation taking it upon themselves to take their own life because of the struggles that they were facing, or they felt like they were facing alone. And believe me, it is a lonely place to be. And when someone can't reach out to anyone around them, and yet they're surrounded by family, that's even lonelier, because you're surrounded by people who should understand you and should know what you're going through, but they don't. I think it's the most simplest things. It's not thinking outside the square. It's literally just, if you can't go over to their house, pick up the phone. Every so often. I know people are busy, we're all busy with our lives, we get it, but there is nothing that can replace a life. There's no money that you can put on it. There's no house or car or any kind of contents that you can put on a family member. And if we start to realize the quality of life and the value of life, then I think that really just it centers us. We become more proactive with family. We become more family orientated. We invest more time in family. And we stop spending time in meleonga, things that are not important, like reading other people's lives on social media. Genuine conversations do matter, and I don't think people should underestimate their impact that they could have on someone's life or on someone's world. If you're an auntie or an uncle or brother or sister, you play an important role in someone's life. Find that someone. It doesn't matter how old they are. I'll tell you, I was in hospital with last year, and I met a little boy there. He was 6 years old, and we became best of friends. But I learned so much from him. He had been in and out of hospital ever since he was young, and he had 4 corneal transplants to my 1. So what he had been through and what his body had been through taught me a lot, and just his strength and resilience towards, almost growing up in the hospital realm. At night when all the visitors would go home, we'd play hide and go seek around the hospital. And we'd dress up in our superhero gears, and we'd run around and play with the nurse like that. But he really showed me a different side of life, and I owe a lot to my little mate over there. He lives in Tauranga. But I think his parents were saying that I helped him grow, and I helped him. Whenever I was taking my meds, he would hate it when nurses would come to touch him. But if he was in my room and would get our meds done together, he'd sit still, he'd be okay.
Wow.
And it's the whole thing of being conditioned, because he once he sees a nurse's uniform, he sees that blue, he gets scared.
Wow.
But if he sees someone who can relate to him, who's going through the same things, he's a kid, he can't articulate sometimes how he feels to the nurses, but I can understand where he's coming from, because I have the same pain. And I could articulate it and tell the nurses, okay, maybe, don't try it this way, don't hold him down like this, maybe try this. And so, when I'd wake up, he'd ride his tricycle into my room and he'd be like, okay, you ready to play? And then ride it out again. So we spent a lot of time together, but that's what I mean, if we don't have barriers to letting people in, or just to talk to people without thinking, oh no, she's too old, she's too young, oh, they look different to me. Maybe, if we just let down all of those, stigmas that we have, or preconceived ideas of people, maybe we could also open up ourselves more to be more caring about what other people are going through. I used to have this invisible rule that it's probably not even a thing, but I never used to mix my friendship groups. I keep my uni friends separate, I keep my school friends separate, I keep my family separate, and I just wouldn't mix. And for me, that was a safety net thing, because if I got, if I didn't see eye to eye with one group, I could always, go to my church friends or uni mates or whatever that was. But for me, I don't particularly mix my faith and my business in one. I know that my faith has grounded my business. With both launches, I had my prayer time with my uncle, who's a priest, and so I founded both businesses in God. And I believe that if just like a house, if it's built on solid foundation, nothing's going to rock it, right? Yeah. And so I am also very cautious and very aware and respect other people's beliefs, and I know that my beliefs are not always going to be their beliefs, and so I don't like to bring in the religion part to what I do, because I hold my religion and my faith very highly. And so I don't want other people to look at the business. It's okay if they criticize the business, I can handle that. But if they criticize things that I believe in intrinsically, that one's tough. And so the business is just a thing. It's just a tool, right? If it goes tomorrow, it goes. It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, I've got my faith and I've got my family, and I know those stand strong and those keep me up. So I think it's also not getting attached to those things as well, not getting attached to the materialistic things, and knowing the purpose. And to be frankly honest, I know none of this would be possible without befriending God and really having him there as a friend, and as my counsel, and someone that I can confide in. I know when I'm lost. So it is a careful balance, and I know that I am addicted sometimes to my computer and to my emails and to my phone. It's not a healthy addiction sometimes, that I'm constantly on here, from when I wake up until when I go to sleep. And I can tell because I look at my watch and I'm like, what, only 200 steps? There's no way. It's just the kitchen and some bathroom and back. But I've tried to make, so I don't book any meetings on Mondays. I leave that as my day to, catch up on emails, but also prioritizing family time as well is so important, because I work a lot with my family. It was, working with family, that's extra hours spent, but spending time as a family, doing family things with no work involved, needs to be separate. And that's how you keep that healthy balance, as well as, you know, Dad always used to say as well, we have our family meetings at home and we have our work meeting in the office. We don't mix the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the psychology part of it as well, is, you know, your body knows where you are and knows when you can relax. Yeah, moments. One thing I would like to share, and this is a quote or a proverb, I guess, that I used in my dissertation, when I handed my dissertation in. E a oa o le tama e tusa mo na ala ai o ina matua e le toi te e se ai. A child is taught the right way when he is younger by his parents, so that when they grow older, they will not depart from it. They will not be separated from it. So everything that I take forward with me is all being learnt over time, but it's also been passed down from the knowledge and the wisdom of my parents and my grandparents and everyone before them as well. So, you know, I always say to people that, you know, when they say congratulations on the certificate or on the award and things, I think, well, it might be my name up there, but honestly, it's everyone that stands before me and in front of me and beside me that has allowed me to get those degrees or get those awards. So none of those are mine to hold myself, but I know that you know, it's also got my family name on them, and so I carry my family wherever I go, whatever job that I decide to partake in, and so I hope you know, I've made my family proud just as much as I work very hard for God. I work for my family too, and I just like to say that I appreciate all the work that you do for our Pasifika women as well, and I wish you all the best in your journey.
Thank you so much for your time today, Esmeralda. You are a busy woman. You're conferencing every day. You got 2 businesses running, all in the middle of COVID, and I just really want to say thank you for sharing of Pasifika Woman of Influence. Like, there are some really amazing nuggets that you've shared with us, and I really, really appreciate your time today. So thank you so much.